What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Powerhouse Mentality Podcast. I'm your host. I'm Caitlin Kenneth Smith, and today I'm sitting down with David Fennell. If you've ever thought I've messed up too many times, I can't come back from this, this episode is proof that you can. He's a guy who weighed over 570 pounds, lost 100 doing 75 hard, gained it all back, lost his mother, flew to Mexico for bariatric surgery, battled kidney stones and a torn shoulder, and still found his way back. We talk about addiction versus discipline, rebuilding your relationship with food, how a CrossFit community became the lifeline that kept him from giving up, and why the simple act of showing up, even when you don't want to, is what actually saves you. It's real, raw, and powerful. If you need a reminder that you're never too far gone, this is it. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the episode. David, welcome. Welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me on. I'm glad we were able to set this up.
Yeah. So first, before we get into your whole story, because it's pretty remarkable, I want to ask you, like, if we were an Uber driver and I'm the Uber driver, I turn around and go, hey, David, what do you do? Like, what would you tell that person? Like, who are you? What do you do?
I think that's an ever evolving answer.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird because I think with most guys, so I'm 44. I think with most guys my age, that would generally be a work answer, right? Like I would be like, hey, I'm a pipeline guy, right? But I've never identified with my career too much. Like it's something that I'm proud of and it's something that I enjoy doing. And I've been doing it for 21 years at this point. But I've never felt like it's where I'm best. Although I'm in formal leadership now and get to lead people and I'm kind of wired that way. But I'm a sum of, as an individual, you ask me like, who are you or what do you do? Like, I think for me, like that points to like passion, right? Like, what are you passionate about? What drives you? And for me, that's always been, impact on people and dealing with people and like loving people and getting to know people. Like, it's just kind of how I'm wired.
I love that. And really, the biggest reason why you're here is because, one, you started following me on TikTok, which thank you so much for following me on TikTok. I appreciate that. Just started getting into the TikTok. But your wife did the same competition that I did. We were in the same heat, which is actually really cool. And
it was cool, yeah.
You mentioned that CrossFit was doing an article on you, and then they were doing an interview on you because of your entire journey from the title was, what was the title of the article? It was like 530 pounds to like strict pull-ups or some sort of thing.
Yeah. It was like 550 pounds to strict pull-ups, and the differentiator is CrossFit.
Yeah.
Yeah, wild to think.
That's a wild thing to even say out loud. Is like, I was once here, and now I'm here. So I want to talk to you a little bit about kind of your background, because you were always an athlete growing up, correct?
Yeah. I mean, that's that's a loaded word. So genetically, I come from athletes. My dad was a really good wrestler. My grandfather was a professional boxer. Like my dad was a Hall of Fame guy at his high school, D1 level guy in the 70s, wrestling, football. Like my father was a bit of a enigma. It was weird. Like I didn't grow up with my dad. I look just like, I mean, if I showed you photos, you would be like, no, you guys don't look alike. But I'm a Fennell. Like I look like my Fennell side very, very much so, even though my mom raised me. And so I can still remember times like I'm from Northwest Ohio originally. And I can remember being around Toledo, Ohio, like even as a kid, teenager, like, especially in my teenage years, because I did favor him much more, and having people stop me and be like, hey, whose son are you? Are you Wayne's son or Dean's son? Like it was that pronounced. And my dad like was just kind of like known as, like my dad was I think he placed third in state in Ohio, which is a pretty big wrestling state, as a sophomore. I know he won one of those years, but he placed all 3 years, and he only ever wrestled 3 years. His first year wrestling was his sophomore year. So we just kind of had that. Well, genetically, I mean, I got it, right? But growing up, I grew up in a like low income housing project in Northwest Ohio. And so even though I was somewhat athletic, I was nowhere near the best athlete around the people I grew up with, right? Like like I had definitely some athletic traits and some athletic ability. My best friend growing up was a 4th-round draft pick in 2002 by the San Diego Padres.
Nice.
I don't know if you're familiar with Charles Woodson, but Charles Woodson, like, and I went to the same elementary school. He grew up in a housing project right down the street. They were kind of tandem. They were actually we hated Delaware Acres, but he was in our place quite a bit. So like, that guy is arguably the second, like if Deion Sanders is the greatest defensive back ever to live, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that's by a pretty wide margin, Charles Woodson is 100% number 2.
Mm-hmm.
So when people ask me like, hey, you were an athlete, I'm like, in my brain, the point of
Yeah.
reference for that is so high that I'm like, kinda.
You have that
Um,
athlete, like almost like identity and mindset because you were
for
surrounded.
sure. Yeah, and I would say this, as I got older and kind of like got out of Fremont, when I would compete against people that weren't from where I grew up,
Mm-hmm.
I could succeed very well. Um, I think like what I am as an athlete is I'm very gritty. I'm very competitive. I never quit. Like when you grow up in that environment and you want to be successful, you have to find ways to succeed. And it was
Yeah.
always less about, I was a big kid. Like I was a 200-pound 7th grader and I could move.
Sheesh.
Yeah, weird, right? But I could move, man. I've always
Yeah.
had that aspect. But what I think I possessed was a resiliency that not everybody around me did. Some kids just had it, right? They were natural athletes, and to them it was like, for me, I just there was a grit about me that I don't think everybody around me had the same way.
Yeah. And I think that honestly, that's arguably more valuable than having amazing athletic genetics. That's nice. But the person who doesn't quit and is so resilient and super gritty, that person is going to grow not just in fitness, but also in every area of their life through pushing themselves when adversity is right there, you know?
Yeah, you learn to be a problem solver. Like that's,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I'm most grateful for. You think back, like I'm 44 years old, and you think back to like those tough times as a kid, right? I mean, growing up in a housing project, and my story is no different than any ghetto story. I've been only
Right.
child, single parent family. Dad wasn't around. My mom worked, I think tried really hard and gave the best she could. There's some elements of my upbringing that I'm like abundantly grateful for. There's a faith aspect in that my mom was very plugged in, and those people. And then she was very hard on me. I was kind of like talking to my wife about that this morning. Like my mom always held me accountable. I wasn't the kid that was ever like, no, my son didn't do that. I was the kid that was like, what did Dave do? Right. That was me. And I was a little bit of a hellfire. Like I was. But I'm abundantly grateful like for that like tough upbringing, because I continually had to learn how to problem solve. And even in athletics, it's like, okay, I'm not like as good as these guys, not as fast, but if I can be a little bit more physical or a little bit more, resilient, or like just not be the first one to quit, then there can be success in the backside. And I think I learned that early.
Yeah, and I love that perspective. I mean, perspective truly does drive performance. So, like, there are people who grew up in the same exact kind of upbringing and they're drug addicts and they're, in and out of jail, all that shit. And then you have people like yourself who are in that upbringing and they become successful because they use it to their advantage.
Yeah, and I didn't always. I mean, I
Yeah.
think, through my 20s is where I started to kind of figure it out. I
Mhm.
think, yeah, listen, statistically, like if we go into statistics, especially upbringing statistics, one thing I'm very willing to say often is if I died tomorrow, I beat the odds. And I know that.
Yeah.
Like, I know that statistically, based on the trauma of childhood. And unfortunately, with poverty, there's just some elements that exist, right? Abuse tends to be a part of poverty.
Right.
Obviously, like not having access to certain things. Like it's funny. Like I think back and we moved to a little small town northwest Ohio called Fremont. So I was born in Toledo, and then we moved through some life stuff with my mother when I was like 3. And from 3 to 18, we didn't have a vehicle more often than we did.
Mm.
And I think about like today, I'm like, how could we operate in life with no vehicle? But we did. She made it work. It happened. Right. But like some of that trauma, and although it led to some, I believe like legitimate mental health stuff like later in life, and we'll definitely get into that. Again, there's a level of survival understanding that I think, gain from that. Right. And I'll tell you what it is, I think, and I don't know if I ever put this together before, but you learn to be uncomfortable and be okay with it.
Yeah.
Like you learn to exist. Like I can remember going to bed as a young kid in August in Northwest Ohio, where it's like, I mean, I understand you're in Florida and it's like that all the time, but like
But in Ohio,
August,
you're not built for it, you know?
no. But I can remember like we never had AC. Matter of fact, my whole upbringing until I was 17 and we moved into an apartment with AC, we never had air conditioning. I can
Same.
remember taking a wet rag and like wiping my body down with a wet rag and laying in bed in front of a fan to cool off. Right? Like just putting together, and listen, that's goofy, but it's like it was a solution.
Yep.
You know what I
I
mean?
say no problems, only solutions. And I think that when you're put through really uncomfortable times, when you're like forced into discomfort like that, you're
Yeah.
literally backs against the wall. You can't focus on the problem. You have to find the solution. And more often than not, you find the solution here. Well, now I can apply those same lessons to other areas of my life.
Yeah. 100%. Absolutely.
So so you were a big kid, obviously you're 200 pounds, seventh grade, but how did you get up to being 550 pounds? Like how did that happen?
Yeah, progressively. So it's
Yeah.
funny. The truth is, I was actually at my heaviest, probably closer to 600. As a matter of
Yeah.
fact, I'm almost positive, because there just comes a point where you're embarrassed by what you see on a
Yeah. You
scale,
just don't
and
want to
then
step on the scale at any point, you know?
yeah. So I know for sure the heaviest I ever saw on a scale was like 573.
Yeah.
I didn't have surgery for some months after that, and I kind of went on a free for all. Like when I made the decision to have weight loss surgery in 2021, I just kind of was like, all right, like this is my last hurrah. So, the how behind that is interesting. When I say progressively, like it really is somewhat progressive, right? But
Yeah. I mean, you don't wake
the
up one morning and you're like 50 pounds heavier, obviously. It's
no,
like time
no,
over
but
time with decisions, right?
yeah, but like I think it's a very listen. I'll just say this. I have to start with this. Like I was an addict.
Yeah.
And when I am like it's not even was like
Mhm.
I'm one of those people. I'm not so inclined to say once an addict, always an addict. And the word addict like is a trigger word for me. I struggle with it because I was just talking to someone this a few hours ago. Addiction to me gets very tunnel visioned. And so we'll use words like alcoholic or drug
Yeah.
addict, right?
Hmm.
I was a self-medicator. And maybe that's in its own like I don't know, maybe that's in its own like category. Sure. All right. Mental health is complicated. So maybe there's like
Yeah, it
this,
is.
there was never like any one thing. Food was definitely what I gravitated towards.
Hmm. You
And
were just
believe it or
almost like
not,
addicted to the dopamine in a sense.
yeah, well, yeah, I was addicted to the release. Like I listen, there
Hmm.
comes a point where like life gets heavy. So I grew up in a house with a mom who 100% was a compulsive eater.
Hmm.
So I can remember cycles as a kid where my mom had as she was like going through her early faith journey, my mom's childhood was far more traumatic than mine. So as you know, when that faith stuff happens, I think there's this notion that like all of a sudden the light switch gets turned on and you're great. That's not real, right? So like
Hmm.
that happened when I was probably two and a half, three, and the ramifications from her trauma like very much were integrated into our relationship. And so there was some physical abuse and some rage and some anger, and it would be that listen, abusers and people with mental health, you work in cycles. That's the way that works. I'm not a doctor, but like I know enough about this to probably could go get a degree if I needed to.
Right.
Like when you are entranced and trained in it, like you just kind of understand the path. So it's a cycle. And so
Mhm.
it would be like I would probably push her to a point, her patience would run thin, there would be an upheaval, there would be some level, maybe not always abuse, but rage.
Mhm.
So that wasn't necessarily always like physically against me. Sometimes that was just throwing stuff, like, right, it looked different. Sometimes it was physically against me. And then as like maybe a peace offering, if you will, there would be like junk food on the back end, and we would just binge.
Yep.
So I would observe her do that. I would, engage in that behavior, and then you kind of equate like emotional duress with food. So I learned that
a lot of people land there. A lot of people, whether it be like, hey, you had a bad day at school, hey, let's go get some ice cream. So now every time, oh, I had a bad day at work, I'm going to go get some ice cream, and then it just kind of gets out of hand.
Yeah, but for us, it was like extreme. So
yeah,
like I think there's a level to that I think can be somewhat healthy. For us, it was like, hey, we're going to go to the Dollar Hostess store, get a whole grocery bag full of stuff, and literally in 2 days, it's wiped, all of it.
Yeah.
And
then it becomes a habit,
Correct. So, but what's really odd too is sprinkled in that same like cycle were revolving cycles of effort to lose weight. So like I remember my mom at a young age doing a diet called OptiFast, which was like a shake diet. I think it's still out there, to be honest with you.
Probably. There's so much bullshit out there still.
Yeah. I can remember like I was doing keto as a 7th, 8th grader. And then it wasn't keto, it was Atkins, right? But it's same premise.
Yeah.
So like it would be like this. And look, here's the thing I don't think people understand. When you're morbidly obese, you can put on weight like it's unbelievable how fast you can gain weight. And I'll tell a story a little bit later about what happened to me and how I got into like decided to ultimately have surgery, but like really quickly. So like my whole life looked like that. Again, I wasn't on a scale as a kid, but I can look back now and especially at my mom and remember where like she would gain 30, 40, 50 pounds and then lose 30, 40, 50 and then gain 60, right? So that was her life. My mom would and it turned into my same life when I started
because it was just like the nature nurture type thing. Like that is what you see, so it's what you start learning.
Yeah, so the weight gain for me didn't like the real weight gain. I played football in high school at about, I don't know, okay, my senior year, I was probably 300 pounds and I was a center. And I was a very athletic, again, that goes back to the athlete in me. Like I could do things that standard 300-pound dudes couldn't do. Like I could jump on a 36-inch box with no issue. And I was a strong kid. And my 40 time was like right around the 5-second mark, 4.9, 5.51, which is quick for a 300 plus pound kid.
Damn right it is.
My mile time was like my fastest mile ever was like 6 minutes and 45 seconds at 300 pounds.
If I saw a 300-pound kid moving that fast, that would blow me away.
Yeah. So like I just always had this weird, uncanny ability to do stuff that guys my size like couldn't do.
Yeah.
So the weight gain, like I was a big dude, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, I went to Liberty University as a freshman, kind of with the intention to walk on. There's some stuff that kind of went down. I was actually in the football dorm. Some stuff didn't happen. I ended up dipping. I left. I was, 17 away from home, no money. And I just decided to quit college. So I went back home. I didn't really gain a ton of weight then. A year later, I moved to New Mexico, which is actually where I got into my trade. So I started in the natural gas industry when I was in New Mexico. Got married, got divorced. And then in 2005, when I moved home, I think that was the first like devastating life event that occurred where weight gain began to happen. My whole time in New Mexico, I lived under 320. I was like between 300 and 320. I played flag football a couple times a year. I was coaching high school football. I was pretty active. However, as I look back to those times, my ex-wife was like very much into diet and exercise. And I can remember like hoarding food, like going to the gas station and like not following the diet at all.
Yeah.
So there were elements of binge eating even then, but I was able to maintain my weight overall.
Yeah. When I got back to stressor was like all this stress piled up and then you just kind of lost control and you leaned on that food.
Yeah, correct. So when I moved back to Ohio in July of 2005, I probably went from like from July, I moved to Louisiana in April of 2006. So moved back in July. Katrina happened in 2005, September of 2005. Wiped out the state of Louisiana. I worked in a factory for a number of months just trying to figure some stuff out and probably went from like 320-ish to 360-ish. And then in July of 2006, I took a job in Houma, Louisiana to get back into the natural gas industry. And when I moved to Louisiana in 06, I was probably 360. But I was in for a rude awakening. So I started to work in the Gulf of Mexico on production platforms. It's definitely hard work, but there's a lot of lull time. And when you live out there, listen, I live in Louisiana now. The food is incredible. Like you're not eating, and it's not that I didn't know about nutrition, but I just didn't necessarily care.
Yeah.
There was no element of fitness in my life. I would I would try stuff, do a little. I grappled quite a bit. So like I grew up a little bit in a wrestling family. So I would do jiu-jitsu and then I would stop and I would do it again. And I would stop.
Right.
But yeah, super. But yeah, so like I get down to Louisiana and I'm working a ton, but I'm also on these production platforms. Like, and the best I can explain to people is like, it's like living in a convenience store, but you also have real food. But like you have access to all of the ice cream and all of the candy bars and all of the Hostess cakes and all of this. I've never been a soda drinker. I've always been a diet soda drinker. That tends to be a fat person thing. It's funny to me now, but it very much like when you grow up in a household that struggles with weight.
It's so like, accurate though.
Oh, it's super. It is 100% accurate.
It's so funny when you say it.
Like to this day, I still drink diet soda. Like I still.
Yeah. I don't understand when people drink regular soda. It just doesn't like click for me. I just don't get it.
No. So like it's kind of always been that way. So I was never like a drink your calories guy, but like I can remember like getting off hitch at nighttime at 6 o'clock. We worked from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And I can remember like getting off at 6 p.m., showering. And then like before I would go to bed at 9, especially if I had my own room, I would quickly snag like some garbage and go to my room and like engage in that behavior with nobody around. The one thing about addiction, it's either in private or it's around people. You share your addiction with other people that share your addiction. Like
that's kind of like when somebody's like, oh, like I'm an alcoholic because they go out and they drink with their friends every week. And I'm like, oh, it's different from like if I was an alcoholic and I'm sitting at home drinking multiple bottles of wine,
Correct. Yeah. So I would hide that, stuff it under a trash can somewhere because there's shame involved and nobody would see it. So I quickly went from like 360 to 400. And I remember like very well weighing in at the heliport because you fly helicopters out there. I remember weighing in at the heliport the first time I was 400 and stepping on that scale and seeing like, I was like 406 and like, oh shit. Okay. It didn't change much. I'm not sure I had the ability to change much.
It's interesting to say that, like, I remember this moment when I looked at the scale and I saw 400 and I was like, oh shit. But then you still didn't make the change, or did you?
Yeah, because what happens is you've got to catch it very quick. So what happens is if you allow that shame to be your point of reference, you fall right back into the cycle.
Yep.
And the heaviest that
that either, they like start exercise as a like, I hate myself, I'm going to just exercise, or I'm going to diet because I hate myself, I want to deprive myself. But that always fails. You have to be doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah, correct. And so I just spiraled, and look, I didn't always like, I tried, man. Like I would drop weight in between there, but the heaviest I think I ever was offshore was probably 480. Is the highest I got. And then in 2013, my dad passed. I think I said, I don't know if I said this in the podcast or prior, but like my dad wasn't around. So it wasn't like a giant emotional thing for me, but like I ended up leaving the Gulf of Mexico and going home and taking some land stuff. In that time frame in the industry, there was a gas seam that really took off in like southeastern Ohio, western Pennsylvania, called the Marcellus and Utica. It's still going today. It's matter of fact, it might be the biggest play in the United States still. So there were some opportunities to go home, and I did. And the thing about us oil field guys is we've always worked hard, but we play hard too, and we eat very well. Vendors are always bringing food. So when we were up there building those compressor stations and going, I was working, man, that first year in Ohio, I didn't work less than 100 hours in a week. Like I was working between 100 and 100, like legitimately 100 and 120 hours a week. It was like bananas.
And that's a lot on the body and the mind.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then, so I'm literally eating food that vendors are bringing in gas station food, fast
Yeah.
food, right? And so that's really, I think, when like it just went nuts. When
Yeah.
I
Just kind
moved
of.
to Ohio, yeah, I bet you when I moved to Ohio, I had gotten down to like back in the 420 range. Like I was doing
Mhm.
pretty well. And then I was probably 500 pounds in a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it was like the battle to get under, right? Then it's like this new number. Then it's trying to get under. So, I jumped around a couple jobs. I had a real bout of success with a job that I went to in Western PA where I had managed to drop some. And then, like, just through the next 5 or 6 years, I continued to add. Well, let me see, COVID happened. And I remember that's when I broke 600 for sure. So I remember we had to make some adjustments in our industry, right? Like our world.
Yeah.
And my
Huge
manager was,
adjustments.
yeah, giant, right? It's funny to think back to that now, but like I remember
It is.
my manager telling me like, look, you need to work from home. And I'm not a work from home guy. And I was like, I'm not working from home. Like I will work from my office, but I just won't integrate with my team. I'll run everything remote. And so that's what I did. Well, I was literally sitting in my office all day eating garbage, right?
Mhm.
I'd get garbage on the way in, garbage on the way out, snack all day. And the weight was just piling on. And it was a rather depressing part, time in history anyways. And so, um, I think I'll be honest, that's kind of where I became cognizant of my mental health issues. Like,
Yeah, I think a lot of
yeah,
people did too. It almost like opened us all, I feel like, to spending more time with self because we were
yeah,
so like off from everybody else and a lot of us weren't working with other people and it gave us time to like think. And then we started to realize like, oh shit, I'm not good, you know?
yeah. And I think it's like when I realized that because my wife has some anxiety issues, debilitating in some respects, but it's the way it manifests for us is very different. And
Yeah.
so, there's this thing about me, like people who don't know me well, because I'm a communicator and that's all my mom, they'll like immediately slap me with this extrovert title. Like this dude's an extrovert.
Yeah. Same.
I'm very,
Definitely
very
not.
much yeah, I'm very much an introvert. Like I'm an only child. I like my solitude. People drain me of energy. I still love people and I love interacting with people and meeting people, but like it drains me. It's
Yeah.
just an energy drain. So I think that was the first time I ever really understood that was like I kind of like this solitude.
Hmm.
It was the first time I started to realize that I probably struggled with some depression.
Hmm.
Just days and days of being in a fog. And I think it was when I like self-diagnosed myself with ADHD because my focus was so much gone. I could never figure it out. Like I had struggled with panic attacks, but I utilized food as such leverage that they didn't happen often because I would eat, you know what I mean?
You'd
So like
self-medicate.
I could quelch that like before it really ever got bad. I kind of started to experience that and still do like afterwards. So like today it happens sometimes and I'm like, oh, okay, I know what this is.
Yeah.
Um, but it was a very odd time for me. Well, Labor Day. So let me see, March of 2020 is when COVID really like took off. That Labor Day, we got invited over to my manager's house just to kind of have a get together. Like we hadn't seen, things were starting to calm down a little bit. And then we were like, all right, let's get together. So I remember going over there, we had a little barbecue. And I had been like really diving into podcasts. I'd always listened to Rogan, but like I was starting to like kind of diversify. So I'd come across some Andy Frisella stuff.
Hmm.
And I'm like, look, let's do this 75 hard thing. Like, we can't, like, I got to do something extreme. And again, here's another thing is like, when you are struggling in addiction, your response to everything is generally extreme.
It's
So,
an all
like,
or nothing type
very
situation.
much. Yeah. And like the stuff you can accomplish is crazy because when you're that way, like, it's not just, hey, I'm going to go run. It's like, I'm going to go run a marathon. It's just
Yeah.
kind of how
I'm
your
gonna go
brain,
run and I'm gonna lift and I'm gonna do that. It's like everything has to be done at the
correct.
same time, or you're doing literally nothing.
Yeah, so like my wife and I started 75 hard the Tuesday after Labor Day of COVID year.
Yep.
Now we're both pretty competitive. You saw her,
Yeah.
Like I listen, she's probably grittier than I am in a lot of ways, and so we were not gonna like let the other person fail. Like it just wasn't, and it wasn't
Mhm.
about her failing or me failing. we weren't going to fail so that the other I'm not letting her win. It's just how my brain worked.
Yep. No, I get that.
Yeah. So like we made the decision to start 75 hard, and we did. And we successfully did it. So I didn't weigh myself intentionally. Like one of the things about Frisella is he talks very openly about that being a mental health thing. And I needed it. I needed that mental strength kind of push. I probably started that at around 550, 560 pounds, if I had to guess. 75 days later, I was 450. Like when I got it, when we finished, I was 450 pounds. So
now I'll tell you, if you do 75 hard, if you do 75 hard, even if, like Andy always talks about, it's not a fitness program, it's a mental toughness program, you will see physical results. Like if you actually fucking do it the correct way,
Yeah. Oh, dude, it was wild. It was quick too. Like,
yeah.
And I could only walk.
Is that so many people use it as a crutch? Like,
yeah,
they do it, and then after 75 hard's over, it's like, well, I don't know what to do now. And then they gain all the weight back. And that's kind of what happened to you, right?
Yes. Well, kind of.
Yeah,
yes. 100% I did gain the weight back, but it was...
Gain the weight back is kind of where I was going. Not like, you're
still there was
very mentally tough.
Well, it was weird. So like, I've always been... So I'll explain to you exactly what happened. So we finished 2 days before Thanksgiving. We set it up that way on purpose.
Smart.
Thanksgiving morning, my wife and I went to the gym together. So we were in a bit of a groove. Now, this is conventional gym. This is before CrossFit, nothing functional, but
yeah.
Went to the gym together. We were like in a groove. Everything was cool. The next week, the governor of Pennsylvania shut down the state for 3 weeks. So again, this spiral happens, right? It's like the addiction sets in. I can't go outside. It's northeastern Pennsylvania and it's 10 degrees, right? The same reason I did. Yeah, same reason I didn't do phase 1. Like I did my first cold shower and I'm like, wait a second, dude. Cold showers in the winter and
phase 1 is like the worst phase. Actually, no, phase 3 is the worst, but phase 1 is right up there just because of the cold showers. They suck so bad.
Well, the thing is, in PA, I could do cold showers in Louisiana.
It's very different.
Like I often do. Like I'll just turn the heat off. Let me tell you, like a cold shower in Pennsylvania in the middle of winter is like, it's like the headaches I would get from it just weren't worth it. Like that's the truth. Like my head would just start throbbing and I'm like, I'm not doing this.
I hear you.
So that started this like the mind again, right? I'm starting to fall.
Yeah.
No gym, no outlet. We get rest on our laurels. Holiday season, we're eating. I'm a sugar addict, man. So like I'm feeding that addiction.
Yeah.
By March of 21, March of April 21, I had gained all my weight back. And so think like I had went from 450 back up to north of 550 in like 90 days. It was that quick.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that was when I just was like, I'm not, like you kind of hit your rock bottom, right? I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. Like I'm smarter than this. I'm more capable of this than this. Like I'm not doing this. And I text messaged my wife and said, I'm going to start looking into having weight loss surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a bit of an extreme deal, but like, listen, I'm in an extreme situation, man. I'm like,
yeah, that is an extreme situation. It's very different from somebody who's like 300 pounds. It's like, this is kind of getting out of hand at this point,
Correct. Yeah. And like doubly out of hand.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I started to do some research. And so initially I was looking at my insurance company. The one thing about like the pipeline business or the gas oil business is like, you kind of go through these construction cycles. And we were in the middle of one. And so the dominant like healthcare provider in my area didn't take our insurance. And so the next like best bariatric center was in Allentown, which is like an hour and 10 minutes south of us. Mm-hmm. There was just, in America, there's some red tape. So like there's usually a nutrition program and then there's a psychiatrist, there's this stuff, right? So I knew that I couldn't break free from work multiple times a week to go to those appointments. Like I needed to be there for my team during this cycle of construction. So, that led me to looking for self-pay options. I had the money. I was like, all right, I'm going to figure it out. There was a self-pay option, Birmingham, I think, and then one in Vegas. I think Birmingham was about 10 grand. Vegas was like 15. Well, when you start to look for those, you start to figure out it's something called medical tourism in Mexico. And so I was like, dude, this is sweet. So I started to like dig into these like surgeons in Mexico that are giving this bariatric care. And I found a guy who like was in Tijuana, Guadalajara, and Puerto Vallarta. And I'm like, never been to Puerto Vallarta. That'd be kind of sweet. And so I started to contact that clinic. We started to talk. That clinic, if anybody listens to this, is called ALO Bariatrics, ALO Bariatrics, Dr. Alejandro Lopez. We went back and forth. I gave him my BMI, kind of sent some photos, blah, blah, blah. And I ended up for $500. I put a deposit down.
That's awesome.
What that did, so what that did is it marked my surgery for November of the end of the year after we were already commissioned in service. So that allowed me to like do my work, right?
Yeah.
I thought, so it gets wild, man. Like, unfortunately for me, or I think for people, when it rains, it pours. And that's kind of what happened. So the whole time now I'm in construction. During construction, you're working long hours. You're getting lunch out every day. You're working 12, 15, 16 hours. So you're eating lunch and dinner, oftentimes breakfast on the go. It's pizza, hoagies. Like, I'm in Northeast PA. So like the pizza's incredible. Louisiana can't touch that.
Yep.
And so you're just like eating garbage. So I'm continually gaining weight during this time. Mm-hmm. Now it's funny because I was able to work at like almost 600 pounds. Like,
yeah, that's actually crazy when you put it into perspective. A lot of people literally can't do shit when they're 600 pounds.
They quit, but there's that grit. There's that grit in me. Like, that's where that difference is like, look, they're paying me to do a job. It's my job to like, not just be good at that job, but exceed. And I don't care how bad my feet or whatever hurt. I'm just going to show up. So I just did my job. And I would be down in the hole with the welders when they were welding, and I would walk I would walk that right away. I just always could do it for whatever reason. And so I knew this surgery was coming. And I was preparing for it. The PTO was in, everything was cool. So I'm gaining weight that year. Well, in like August of that year, my mom's health took a turn for the worse. She was 68, she was diagnosed with kidney cancer a few years earlier, had her kidney taken out, was good as far as we knew, only she wasn't. And so through this weird series of events, she finds out she has cancer and just plummets. So I'm now driving back and forth from Northeast PA to Northwest Ohio, which is about a 7-hour drive. And I'm doing that like every other week, week on, week off. Fortunately for my leader at the time, like, she allowed me the freedom to do that. And I was able to like do a lot of things and make decisions remote and sign the permits I need and like jump on meetings and still like be present. The nice thing about technology is like through Teams and Zoom, I can still be somewhat present with guys.
Yeah.
And so that and I had an incredible team. And so like they were able to kind of bring that project to fruition as my mom's life was coming to an end. November 4th, my mom died, and November 12th, I buried her. November 15th, we flew to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. November 16th, I had weight loss surgery. And November 19th, we were back in the US. And so when we talk about transition, like, I put myself through a wild, like, emotional time frame in a very short amount of time. Mm-hmm. So here I am now back in the US stateside. I have literally a quarter of the stomach that I had when I went to Mexico. And the mental health stuff doesn't go away.
Right.
But now I'm dealing with like this mania that I had never dealt with in my life, these manic episodes. That was the first time in my life that like I didn't have an answer for anxiety. It was like out of nowhere, my heart rate would increase wildly. I would profusely sweat. I just didn't know what to do. And I just kind of had to learn, like, you can't eat. You know what I mean? It was just, and listen, there was no fitness. That first year, there was no fitness. Like, I really wanted to focus on like, okay, how do you rebuild your relationship with food?
And that's such a difficult thing to do. And I feel like most people don't even know how to start it, because that relationship that you had was so ingrained within you, and you were almost forced into fixing your relationship with food because you could no longer eat the way that you used to be able to eat.
Yeah. And here's the thing is, like, again, like, we tend to operate in extremes. And so you go from like being able to eat a house to not being able to eat anything. And realistically, like, the first 6 months after surgery are very uncomfortable because when, there's like these elements of being a compulsive eater. We don't chew our food well, kind of eat fast, right? You can't do that when you've had that surgery. So
Mhm.
I would get into those situations where I would eat too fast and literally the food would feel like it was in my esophagus.
Yeah.
So like food for me became a frustrating like journey because
Yeah.
I didn't know like if I was going to be able to eat. Like I can remember thinking back to this now, like there were times where I just wanted to bang my head against a wall, where I was hungry, but I couldn't get satiated because I wasn't willing to take the risk. It wasn't about to get stuck in my gut. Like it was so frustrating. So I lost my first 100 pounds in like 3 months. Like literally had surgery in November. By January, I was 530 on the operating table. So by January, I was like 430, and
Mhm.
that weight just continued to fall, continued to fall, continued to fall. And so, look, there's this cool side of that where you're like, all right, this is working, right? There was a mental battle in the back end that I'm not sure anybody. There's a almost a grieving mechanism that happens on the backside where you're like
Mhm.
breaking up with this comfort of
Right.
like, you know what I mean? Of like food has always been this comfort level and that relationship is
Mhm.
changing. And so you're grieving that like separation. And that was a very unique, I think, thing to go through. So this, and it even gets wilder. So like fast forward to August, I'm probably, I don't know, probably 280, so I was healthy.
Yeah.
Like I was a good weight and I'm like 6'1". So 280,
Yeah.
I look in okay shape.
Yeah.
But mind you, no fitness. So the majority of the weight I lost was muscle.
Mhm.
I had left my company at that time to pursue something else. And I was playing in this like charity United Way softball game. And I remember like hitting the ball like, man, dude, the athletic ability is still here. I ran to first base. We turned sides. I had to like do something for work, so I didn't go out the next side, and I had to run home. We were real close to my house, so I jump in my truck. I'm headed home, and on my way home, so this is like August of. Let me see. I had surgery November 21, so this is like August of 22. So close to a year, right? 10 months later,
Mhm.
11 months or 9 months later. So I'm headed home, and I start to feel this pain on my right side lower back, and I'm like, okay, what's going on? Then I start feeling it on my left side lower back. And in 15 minutes, like I'm curled over in my truck trying to get home.
Yeah.
When I got home, I had to roll out of my truck, literally just let myself fall and then crawl to my back porch. And I'm like, Dave, like, what's happening? Well, call my wife. She comes get me and we go to the emergency room. I've got 2 kidney stones. I have a 6 millimeter kidney stone on my right side, a 4 millimeter on my left side, and they're both pretty much stuck.
Yeah.
So the health issues, I never had health issues in my life. I didn't have high blood pressure, didn't have high sugar. I had no issues as a morbidly obese man. Literally, so this is like my birthday is August 20th. This was August 19th of that year. Uh, by mid September, not only was I battling kidney stones, I couldn't walk. So I start to coach football. My right hip starts to go out. I'm literally walking with a cane. So literally, like it's like in a 2 month period, I went from
Yeah.
like, sweet, I'm losing weight, this is cool, to oh shit, what is going on? Every time I go to the bathroom, it's excruciating, and I can't walk, can't drive, like sitting in a recliner with my one leg up because I can't cross a certain threshold. I'm like, what do I do? So I start going to see orthopedics. They're telling me I need a hip. I'm like, what did I get myself into? Like I was
Yeah.
unhealthy fat, but like not like this.
But what people
And
don't realize is like when you lose muscle, it's so debilitating and your body plummets pretty quickly.
mhm, it's exactly what happened.
Mhm.
So, but there's a beautiful side. If you, as I got into my 40s, I started to learn the value of being grateful. And I can remember
Powerful.
sitting in my recliner in a bind, right? Like not in a good spot. And it hit me out of the blue. Dave, like this really sucks. But this could have happened a year ago when you were 550, 600 pounds.
Right.
But you're 270 and you're able to get up and with a cane, get up the stairs and use you wouldn't have been able to do this at 600 pounds.
Yeah, it
And
would have been a really bad situation.
yeah, there was a mental shift in my life that occurred during that time, that I'm not sure I recognized then, but I certainly recognize now that is carried on. And it was that gratitude of like, look, man, like you've been through some shit and you're here and you're making it and you're healthy, right? And so I ended up like figuring out a solution, learned about some cool like muscle guarding stuff, went to some physical therapy, started to build back like the muscle around those hips. And in January of 20, I would have been 23 is when I walked into my first CrossFit gym.
What made you go
Uh,
to CrossFit?
so okay, in a past life, I managed MMA fighters. Some of those guys trained CrossFit.
Yeah.
It's always been somewhat intriguing to me because it's really hard. I know it's hard.
Yeah.
There was a relationship that I had through my company, and I knew like there was a lady there whose husband owned one of the local gyms, and I didn't want to train where I was living because I coached football. I just needed some solitude and a place to go that was a little bit off the beaten path.
Mm-hmm.
I knew the stigma around CrossFit. I also knew that it wasn't fully true, but that would keep people away. And so it was like I can go here as a safeguard.
Yeah.
But what I got, look, man, and I get emotional. Like I think back to that, like that time frame in my life. In a lot of ways, like mental health wise, physical health wise, like overall fitness wise, the decision to walk into that gym, say, man, I don't know if it saved my life. I don't know if I'd be dead, but like it, I was
It
getting
changed
ready to
your life.
go. Yeah, I was getting ready to go through a really difficult time mentally in the next like 7, 8 months. And
Mm-hmm.
if I wouldn't have been plugged into that gym and I wouldn't have been plugged into those people, I don't know. I don't know. Like that's the first time, like during that next 6, 7 months is the first time I ever had suicidal thoughts. This is after the weight loss, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's the first time I ever like really went to a really, really dark place mentally that I could feel it. Like it was like tangible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but showing up to that gym, that CrossFit gym every day, 7 days a week, I didn't miss, was the catalyst that like seeing those folks and building progress and watching my body come back and watching like the overarching like mental health, physical health connection, like seeing that like, man, but it was those people, man. It was that 6 a.m. class was the first class that I was a part of. And the encouragement and accountability that I got from those people in that class. And then eventually my wife came. So I started in January. She came in April. So we were
Nice.
doing it together, which was even cooler.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like Saturdays and then it was Sundays. And I'm getting to, meet these folks and, you're grinding, like you're suffering with these people next to you. That's when things started to change, man. That's when like, I started to feel strong again. I started to like my appetite came back. Like I remember early on in that process, like and I was like mowing through food. It was hilarious. Like I remember like going and I tried to eat a whole like bagel sandwich. I couldn't do it. I could only eat half, but like I wanted it. I needed it. Like I needed the sustenance.
Yeah.
So that was a really like neat place because what I developed during that time was a real freedom with food, and I had never had that. And so, like, I remember my wife had lost. She was kind of on her own health journey, so she had lost like 80 pounds, and she was doing low carb. And I broke her. I was able to kind of break her of that low carb thing by going to the gym. So we would go on Saturdays, and I remember telling her like, Bree, when like you have a 2 hour window where your body's like, I just need glycogen, like just I
Yeah.
need glucose, and it doesn't really care if it's a pancake or an apple, like it needs
Yep.
sugar.
It just needs it.
Yeah, so we would go eat breakfast together after the gym on Saturdays and usually split a meal. So we would get like a regular breakfast and then a pancake, or a regular
Yeah.
breakfast and a waffle or a French toast. And so like that became a really healthy thing. Like we enjoyed it. It was a little bit of a date time for us together,
Yeah.
right? You have kids, it's tough to fit those things in. We would bring some people from the gym with us at times, and it was kind of a neat period for us. And then let me think. That was, that kind of lasted. I was at that gym through like May, And I had an opportunity in May to move back to Louisiana and go back to the company that I had left. And
Mm-hmm.
it was just too good of an offer to turn down. So we
Yeah.
did. So here we go. Paradigm shift. Like we're leaving like our comfort zone, our people,
Yep.
these people that we have like bonded with, people that I'm still bonded with today. Very like I would be remiss to not thank them. Like the Tom Balestas, Rob Falls, like Sam. I mean, I could go on and on. Like there's 27 people, but there's a few of them. Like Will Kavanaugh is still a guy that like does my run programming to this day because I think he's very good at it. My buddy Rick Barry, looks like a superhero. Is like the coolest dude ever. I
Yeah.
still talk to Tom Balesta. I still talk to Rob Falls. Like those guys are still very much like points of reference to me, both in accountability and just care. Like I care deeply about them and the impact they had on my life. And so I make sure that I stay in touch. We moved to Louisiana in June of 24.
Mm-hmm.
And things changed, man. Like my job was great. It was a much better opportunity financially. But the gym that we joined, it was a really good place coaching wise, really good actually. But intensity level, the clientele there was a little bit older.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a little bit more geared towards health longevity and not intensity.
Right.
Mix that with I'm not moving at work as much. Like I'm a senior ops manager, so I'm spending time at my desk. Like I walk around the station and stuff, but I'm on meetings a lot too, and so you're not moving as much. Well, guess what happens? You start to gain weight. So like I come down here at like probably 255, 260, pretty healthy weight. We jump into this strength cycle in the gym. I'm a dude, so I'm like I need to like boom show out. I got to eat, so I'm eating, trying to put on about 15 pounds, but I put on like 35.
Mm-hmm.
And I end up at like 297 before I had to like be like, whoa. And so last December, not quite a year, I was doing a bench press and, CrossFit, we don't bench press very much, like dumbbells,
Yeah.
but like barbell bench isn't something that we do a lot of. And I took this stupid jump in weight, ego, just all ego, part of my mental health struggles. It's there. And I felt my shoulder. It's the best I can explain it. I don't know. Like it just felt like
Yeah.
Velcro.
Yep.
And so I tore my rotator cuff and my bicep, both of them.
Oof.
I was in a really weird spot because it's December, and I didn't want to go to the doctor because I hadn't done anything with my deductible, and I didn't want to pay it twice.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kind of thugged it out from the injury through the end of the year. So I was doing like no weight thrusters and just still kind of doing what I was doing. And in January of this year, I went in, got an MRI, all the stuff. Hey, man, your rotator cuff's torn, your bicep's torn. And for the first time since I had weight loss surgery, it went dark again. It was, besides for that, like section I talked about, that dark time, but like from a physical health perspective, I thought I was in a really good place.
Yeah.
And now I'm almost 300 pounds, still going to the gym 6 or 7 days a week. So I'm getting the mental benefit of it, but some of the food behavior that had kind of dictated and ruled my life was back.
Mm-hmm.
And my output was getting ready to get cut in by 75, 80%. So I'm like, oh crap, man, what am I going to do? And I remember having a conversation with my wife. I came home and I was just down. And she's like, well, I know you pretty well. You're not afraid of surgery. You're not afraid of the pain. You're not afraid of the recovery. Are you afraid that you're going to gain weight? And I'm like, not that I'm afraid I'm going to gain weight. I've gained weight.
Yeah.
And now what am I going to do? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I made the decision to go on a GLP-1. And it's funny, when CrossFit interviewed me, like I was very afraid to like say that because I just think there's a stigma around GLP-1s that is probably fair and unfair, right? I think there's a lot of people that take a GLP-1 that don't do anything on the backside, and it's where like your Ozempic face comments come in.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of the people who are throwing the stigmas out there don't know enough about it. They just look at it as this is cheating. And it's like, no, not necessarily. You're not there's a lot that GLP-1s have to do with the addiction personality, where it helps with the relationship with food and it quiets the food noise that people have seen a lot of great results with. But again, I feel like a lot of people are uneducated when they go on it. They don't know hey, it's going to suppress your appetite. So if you don't eat enough protein, if you don't strength train, you're going to lose muscle, and that's going to lead to really big problems, you know?
Yeah. So I went on tirzepatide because as I did my research, I thought it was the best.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been, I had surgery February 28th. So that next week I would have started with my first shot at 2.5 milligrams. And I'm like 226 today. So I was 297. I'm like 226, 227 today. So I've been able to take that 70 pounds off. What you say about food noise is 100% right. I was
Mm-hmm.
just telling somebody a few hours ago that like what it's done for me. I almost use it like an SSRI.
Yeah.
SSRIs have always scared me because not because I don't think they work. I think people need them, but I think doctors are so uneducated
They
oftentimes.
just prescribe them way too often.
Yeah, or it just is like try this, right? It's like oh, Paxil doesn't work, try Prozac. That doesn't work,
Yeah.
try Lexapro, try Effexor. I watched it happen. Like I've seen it happen to many people.
Oh, yeah.
Um, But man, that like Zepbound med was such a breath of fresh air. And here's what's really cool from a fitness side. It forced me to go backwards. And at first you're like, that's terrible. Because you've gained so much progress. The one of the things I really love about CrossFit and Andrew Hiller, I don't know, there's a lot of CrossFitters that are like bent on Andrew Hiller. I happen to love him. One of the things he always talks about is the standard being the standard, right? And so I think I got to a place where I was very complacent with those standards of fitness. So
Mm.
I wasn't hip crease below knee crease doing air squats. Like I wasn't like utilizing the standard as it was meant to be utilized.
Right.
And so I just kind of made a decision, losing all that weight and rehabbing the shoulder. I'm gonna start over. I'm gonna start to do this and like really understand the standard again and like really work on my mobility. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
44, and I talk about this in the article a little bit. Like I'm a 44-year-old dude. Like I don't need to be super, super strong.
Right.
Listen, my dude brain is like, yeah, man, squat 700. But like
Always.
there, yeah, there's not a functional reason that I can say I need to do this. And so as I lost weight, I got weaker. I mean, you can like I'm eating protein and I'm trying to maintain muscle, but like it's hard to do that. So what it's allowed me to do is like relearn. I mean, it's funny, like I've just kind of fallen back in love with the journey of like, okay, I never could do kipping pull-ups, but guess what? I couldn't do strict pull-ups either until a few weeks ago. And it was like, oh crap, I could do a strict pull-up. And so now I'm like in this weird vein of relearning. Hey, I could, when I squatted 350, 360 a year ago, it was not the standard. I saw it on film. Like I was
Yeah.
like at parallel. I was not hip crease below knee crease. Can I get there again? I don't know if I can get to 360 again, but I certainly can get to 315.
Yeah, and it'll be
It's,
much better for your body overall because you're not introducing dysfunction to it with not
yeah,
standard.
dude, like I just have gotten this revamped look at my life. And I'm like, my goal is just to be as fit as possible. There's a limit to that. Like
Yeah.
I don't have a desire to do Ironmans. I don't have a desire to do ultra marathon. Like I'm not necessarily in that vein. I don't know if I'm cut from that date that I don't know if I'm cut from that David Goggins cloth.
Yeah.
Um, but in the vein of like my personal fight against myself, there's like this push of like, well, where can you go? Like how
Mm-hmm.
fit can you push yourself to get? Like we've been running the last 3 weeks in preparation for these 5Ks, and I know 5K is not long, but I tried to do that damn 5K last year with no training at all, and I did it. Like I ran it, but I didn't feel good afterwards. CrossFit has this weird you kind of like really good from like 12 to 20 minutes. And then like minute 21, your heart rate's like, pachoo, and you're right.
Yep.
So I'm kind of relearning, okay, how do I get to 35, 40 minutes?
Yeah.
Eventually I'd like to get to where like I can go for an hour or two. And so I've just kind of developed a real appreciation for like overall fitness and how do I get in the best possible shape I can get into? How do I build muscle mass? I just did my first in-body scan like a month and a half ago, and I was like 15.4% body fat, which you want to talk about a win, right? Like the weight's cool, but to go from 600 pounds and probably 50% body fat to 227 pounds and 15% body fat, and I'm probably
That's
under that
unbelievable.
now. That's like, all right, dude, like we're doing something, right?
Yeah, because that's healthy. People don't realize that like people who just don't have enough muscle mass, that's when it becomes unhealthy. Like I don't care how skinny you are, like if you have less muscle, it's just not good for your health.
Yeah, for sure. So it's been a really like wild journey, man. Like
Yeah.
but the CrossFit side of it, and it says, the differentiator. I would argue that the differentiator has been the community.
Yeah.
Um, I kind of learned a while ago that like I don't necessarily think there's this like hyper magic to CrossFit methodology. I think it's great, but don't get me
Yeah.
wrong.
No, and I agree with
The
you 100%. A
but
lot of
like
people benefit from the community aspect of it.
Yeah, like listen, I do think like doing work. I watch like I think we talked about this in Pensacola. I ran across your videos and I'm an energy drink junkie, so I saw the reviews and then I put two and two together that you were the same person and you kind of open all your videos the same way, like on the path to being a competitive CrossFit athlete. So like I saw that programming and was like, man, she's killing herself. But like I can look at that video. It's funny, we were at that competition in Pensacola and we had some people with us that don't do CrossFit. And like, listen, let's be honest. If you don't do it, it's really hard to understand. It
Right.
just looks like a lot of people exercising.
Yep.
And so you don't understand like the mental battle that is going on through a workout unless you've done those workouts.
Mm-hmm.
And when you've done, and I tested every one of those workouts y'all did. I can't rope climb, so I did heavy sled pulls, but it's very similar stimulus. Like I knew where y'all were falling apart. I could watch like each girl and be like, "Oh yeah, watch this. This is about to happen." And I was explaining it to people around me, and they're like, "Man, how do you know this?" And I'm like, "I tested these. Like I tested these with my wife. Like I'm very familiar with what's happening." So it's a beautiful thing when you know what you're seeing.
Yeah.
If you don't know that, like there's a lot of folks. One of my best friends is back in Michigan, and they're visiting in February and he and his wife go to a conventional gym often. And so he'll like mess with me and be like, "Oh, when I come down in February, I'm going to bury you." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Buddy, you don't
Let's
know what
see.
you're walking."
Let's see.
Like we're walking in. Like I keep telling him, "Joe, listen, you're coming to the gym with me and you're going to figure it out. Like there's a level here that like you don't get in a conventional gym.
Yep.
There's a level that you're put like today, like listen, today was a ascending devil press. So 1 through 10 with so it's we do mayhem programming. So ascending devil press, 1 devil press, 10 cal bike, 2 devil press, 10 cal bike, right? It was brutal.
Yeah, that sounds terrible. That's
That
an
last
awful combination, by the way. Assault bike
yeah,
and devil's press.
but look, like I can sit there when I'm done completely clear-headed.
Mm-hmm.
Like there ain't no demon. It's
Yep.
funny, one of the questions I always get, I get this all the time, is like, "Dave," and I would bet you the reason you haven't asked it is because you know the answer, which is interesting. Everybody will ask, "Hey man, like how do you stay motivated?" And I'm like, "Bro,
You're
I'm
not.
not."
Nope.
And it's funny, I was like aesthetically, I got to see myself naked every day before I get in the shower.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, what I look at aesthetically is not beautiful. I see the remnants of myself having abused my body for a 20 or 20-year period. But I have some skin. I got very lucky, super lucky. Like I could look way older than I do. There's a lot of people who I'll lose 370 pounds that are like their face is drooping. I got very lucky. But I ain't out of the park, man. I can see it. I can see it in my stomach and my chest and my legs and my arms. Like I see the remnants of that weight loss.
Yeah.
I'm never going to get the aesthetic like satisfaction from CrossFit or from the work I put in unless I have skin surgery. And I'm not real sure that that's something I want to do because it's so
Yeah.
invasive. Maybe we'll see. I don't know. So that certainly ain't motivated. I'm not a vanity thing because I like it doesn't look real pretty.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't a lot of motivation. I would say most days, because I have to go to the 5 o'clock p.m. class, which I hate, but it's just our gym scheduling is 5:30 a.m. and that's just not quite enough time to get to work by 7. So I go at night, and so like I would bet you 5 days a week, I'm like, you don't really want to go. You really want to go? Like you're tired. You want to go? You know what I mean?
Yep.
At this, there's a non-negotiable to it. Like you posted a video. I don't know if it was like 2 Saturdays ago where you were like super transparent and we're just like, listen, I've had a shitty day.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to do this. Like you're sitting on the edge of a bench covered in sweat. Like I did
Yep.
not want to do this cardio piece, but I feel better now. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I
Every
tell
time, like I go and touch the timer and I'm like in tears almost because I really don't want to do it. Like I'm tired.
Yeah.
I'd rather just chill. But at the end of the day, nothing feels better than pushing yourself and keeping the commitment you make to yourself.
Yo, listen, and I like commend you because you're doing it alone. Like it's a different game. I have that community to lean on. You're in your garage getting it. I don't like I trained by myself for a short time. I would go in at 3 a.m. And it's way harder. It's a way harder level of non-negotiable. But I would say that's the word, right? That's what it's become. It's like even like in my billing cycle, because CrossFit's, it's a little more pricey than your standard conventional gym. And when you have my wife is there with me, I tell people all the time, like it is as important to my life as my electric bill.
Yep.
Like I know that you guys don't see that and you look at this gym membership as a luxury. It is not a luxury. It is
That's how more people should look at it.
yeah, like and maybe it's not that for everybody, but
Yeah.
for us and for what it does for me on a personal level, it is that critical. Like I have to do it. I will not, from a mental health standpoint, the stress of my job, the stress of like, I would not be able to kick it. That demon, like you can't see him, but he's always here.
Mm-hmm.
And like, so like, it's like another funny thing that'll come out of that is like, I got a really good buddy that goes to our gym here and he'll be like, do you think it's healthy to go 7 days a week? And I'm like, well, define that. Like, is it healthy? So I'm on day probably 15 in a row. Yeah, because I ran Wednesday. So I'm on day like 15 in a row right now. And I will allow myself breaks. Like I'm not like stupid, but I will, if they come up in life, they come up in life. My kid plays football, can't go to the gym that day. All right, I'm not going, no big deal. But if I can go 7 days, I'll go 7 days.
Right.
And so that was his statement to me, like, okay, like, do you think it's healthy? I'm like, look, man, from a physical perspective, I would debate the word health. I would say it's probably not ideal.
Mm-hmm.
Like to not give myself the recovery I need is probably not ideal. But from a mental health standpoint, it is 100% ideal because the fatigue that I get from fighting the mental health side can only be, listen, there's a faith element to my life. There's no doubt about that. And there's no doubt in my mind that that helps, right? You know, call it what you will. This is, 12, whatever. Like I know where I stand spiritually, and that is a very like important part of my life. But the physical stuff that I put myself through is what really helps me fight that demon.
Yeah.
And what it also does is allows me the freedom to still eat kind of the way I want to eat. Like I still have freedom with food that I've never in my life had. I can eat a little bit of this and a little bit of that and like, oh yeah, we're doing this Louisiana food. Yeah, no problem. I can have this. Or I can go out with some friends and have a couple drinks.
Yep.
And like live my life with some semblance of balance.
Yeah.
Whereas if I didn't have that mental blow every day, there wouldn't be balance. There's no way.
Yeah,
Right?
it makes
I've
it
never learned that.
sustainable. Makes it sustainable for
Yeah.
you. Now,
Yeah.
the last question that I have for you is if someone is listening to this and they think like, oh, I've messed up too many times, I'm too far gone, I failed too much. What is one piece of advice that you would give to that person to help them?
I don't think there's a real thing as too far gone. I mean, look, addiction's a funny thing, man. And I would say rock bottom looks different for everybody. But the reality is like the way to get there is just to take the first step forward. and then to take the next step forward. I think the one thing I've learned through this whole process, and I teach my team this, when we talked about extremes a few different times. Like when you're an addict, everything tends to be extreme.
Right.
I learned something a long time ago from a pastor buddy of mine in Mobile, Alabama. And I'm not sure I listened to it, but never understood it. Maybe I understood it from a spiritual context. I'm not sure I understood it from a life context. But he said it doesn't have to be big to be significant. And so what I would say to that individual is just take the next step forward. And the next day, go back. And the next day, go back. And just keep going back. Like, here's the reality. From a physical standpoint, and I would even say from a mental standpoint, but from a physical workout standpoint, I live by this like 33% rule. And I don't know if it's right or wrong. It works for me. I know that if I'm going in a 7-day period over and over again, it's impossible for me to perform like kick ass every day. Come on, man. I'm a human. Like it's impossible. Yeah. So like we talked last week, I had to put my dog down. That was last Thursday. We got back home. It was like 4:00. Gym's at 5. My wife and I are like debating. Like we're both obviously crushed and sad and are bawling our eyes out. Like, do we go? And I'm like, yeah, we go. Now I knew going into that workout that it was not going to be a good one. Like I was not in the mental like mind frame for it to be a good one. It just wasn't.
Yeah.
But we did it. I showed up. Right. And the value in just showing up, like that's what I would tell that person is, yo, dude, like just show up. Like just show up, do what you're capable of that day. And the next day, do the same thing. And the next day, do the same thing. And even when it's hard and you don't want to do it, just do it. And as you stack, man, listen, my first CrossFit coach, or the guy that owned the first box we went to, used to say all the time, like, it's like a bank. Like fitness is like a bank. When you're stacking it, right, there's a longevity to it. And I've seen that throughout times where like work has gotten busy and I've had to miss a week. Like I don't go back that next Monday and I'm dead. I go back that next Monday no different than when I left.
Yeah.
Because I've stacked it. And so you're investing. Somebody said one time that like lean muscle mass is the 401k to your body. I believe that. Like just slowly over time, go. Show up, man. Just show up. And I know that's like super cliche in some ways, but I just think it's the answer.
Yeah, I mean the cliche stuff is usually the stuff that hits the hardest, and I mean you're proof that you're never too far gone, and no matter how many times you fail, you can always come back, you know. But I really appreciate you for sharing your story and for opening up, because I know that this episode is going to impact a lot of people. And to everybody who's listening, go down in the show notes, give David a follow, so that way you can always support, and if you ever need anything. But go out today and do one thing that's going to take you one step closer to where you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I really appreciate you. Enjoyed the conversation. I'll continue to listen. You turn me on to these new energy drinks all the time, so I'm like, I love that. I love that content. My wife like rags me for it, but yeah, I've been thankful. You found my best energy drink at 25. People quit ragging her over that raspberry cream because it is the GOAT. And
it is the GOAT.